Too many games are censored, and people are getting sick and tired of not being allowed to enjoy games with nice looking characters. And a new highly anticipated game has finally released, and the costumes we saw in the trailers looked great, yet of course, they have been toned down in the final version of the game, and the game is very buggy and broken, angering gamers even further. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So I wanted to start off with this Sankaku Complex article talking about the censorship. It says Tower of Fantasy censors anything even remotely sexy. Now this is an MMO RPG, and I love MMOs. I will play any type of MMO I can get my hands on, but I have decided to ultimately pass on this title because of the censorship and also the reports that at launch it has been very broken. Yet more Western English releases of games are being censored as Tower of Fantasy is the next target, the developers forcibly altering the attire of female characters to hide their cleavage or putting them in different outfits entirely, even though the original outfit was hardly that sexy to begin with. We also saw a few months ago the same situation happen with Lost Ark. We saw in trailers and previews in the original Korean version of the game very sexy, scandalous outfits, and then when it came to the West, there were quite a few outfits missing, and the developers weren't being totally honest about it. At first they said, oh no, there's no censorship, these versions of the outfits will be in the game, and then it launched and there were a few outfits missing. There are definitely still some sexy outfits in the game, and it looks like with this title there are as well, but it just reminds me of that situation. Tower of Fantasy is an MMO developed by Hoda Studio, while Level Infinite is in charge of publishing, and of course, they are part of Tencent Games. And for those not familiar, Tencent is loyal to the values of China and often demands censorship while sometimes monetizing games in the worst way possible. As soon as I started researching this situation and I saw that Tencent was part of this game in any way, shape, or form, I instantly went, of course. I'm not very surprised anymore to hear that this game was censored. I didn't know that this was a game being published by a company owned by Tencent, but now that I know this, it all just lines up. It makes sense. Unfortunately, I've talked about Tencent a lot on this channel because they do force censorship onto a lot of games. And if you do not really know how deep Tencent is in the gaming industry, I mean, unfortunately, they have invested in a lot of major companies. Riot Games, they own 100% of, Epic Games 40%, Bluehole 11%, Ubisoft, Blizzard, Grinding Gear Games. There are a lot of companies they have unfortunately gotten their claws into. Now, there is a lot of social media backlash that I won't really be showing in this video, but if you go to Twitter and you type in Tower of Fantasy, you are going to see a lot of people who are very upset over this censorship, but also the fact that the game is very broken. But it says Twitter users shared screenshots comparing the Western release of the game with the original version. Now, I don't know the names of these characters, so I can't be very specific about them, but as you can see with the first screenshot, this looks pretty great. You see a lot of different characters and very different outfits. This art actually does look pretty solid, and the character also seems like she's got very good assets about her, but you go to the second image and the same character is now in overalls, and of course her chest has been flattened, which is just so disappointing for so many reasons. I think the overalls is the most offensive thing to me, but yes, her, unfortunately, chest has been altered, and this outfit is not even really the same outfit at all. Then if you go to the second before and after photos, this one is, I guess, a little bit more confusing because they didn't really alter her outfit, they simply toned down her chest. I think that this is a great outfit, do not get me wrong, and I'm glad that they didn't change it because that means they do still have a fairly sexy outfit in the game, but at the same time, they very clearly altered her chest size. And then we've got this character, known as the Mysterious Wanderer. It says on the top is the uncensored version, on the bottom is the censored version, which of course are the difference between the Japanese and the English release. As you can see with the first image, there's this mesh kind of underlining to her chest piece. You can still see the outline of her cleavage, and then in the bottom image you can't. The opacity is to 100%. It says, one costume's in-game icon was rather revealing, yet the actual appearance of it on the character was more covered up. And this is one of those situations that, yes, you can very clearly see that there was a more skimpy version of this outfit due to the icon. I don't think that this end product looks bad, but at the end of the day, it is still censorship, and it makes me not want to support it. This outfit doesn't look terrible. I do think that it looks pretty good, but they very clearly added more of that, generic black fabric underneath to cover her up and show less skin. And aside from censorship, this game is also very buggy and very broken right now. This is an article by Twinfinite. It says, Tower of Fantasy developers acknowledge the launch issues and promise compensation. It seems like there were a lot of people who were very excited to play this game, and in typical MMO fashion, it launched, their servers were not very stable. Apparently people were purchasing things in a cash shop, and they were not receiving their items, which of course is very scary to people when you're swiping your credit card and you don't get the items you have rightfully paid for and you should be obtaining. But this game is just an absolute mess right now. It is a shame that it is censored, and it's also a shame for the people who wanted to play it that it is so buggy and broken right now. I will not be supporting the game because of all of the censorship that has been shoved into it, but for now that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.